Bruce Djite, welcome to A-League Access. It's
Thanks
nice to
for having
have
me
you
on,
finally.
guys. It's finally, yes. It's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming. I just wanted to start off by asking you about Perth Glory, your thoughts about what's happened to them now that they've been locked out of Perth, WA, I should say. Should there have been a plan in place by Football Australia to create a hub for them or something, just so they don't go through this hassle? I mean, there must be stress. The guys must be stressed, and the players, coaches, etc.
Look, it'll be very challenging, and I think it shouldn't be lost on anyone the challenges that Perth and Wellington have had to face, not just now, but last season as well. These are two clubs that have been materially more impacted than any other when it comes to borders and COVID and their inability to get home with their families and the like. So extremely challenging. This latest move by the WA government to keep borders shut, I think took the whole nation by surprise, especially Western Australians. It was a real walk back from their premier, as he'd already committed to a date. So, I don't think that there's much the league could have done. There's no doubt, I've got no doubt that they've got a plan B and C now for Perth Glory, but it doesn't make it any easier. If you're a player, if you're in part of the coaching staff, if you're away and you basically can't get back home because they can't do 2 weeks quarantine and the like, then any plan you don't really care about, because the only plan you want is the plan to be able to fly in and out of your state and your city. And at the moment, they're unable to do that. So very, very tough time for Perth. Maybe marginally more difficult because of the element of surprise than Wellington, for example, who knew that they wouldn't be able to be based in New Zealand for large parts of this season. But extremely challenging. I couldn't imagine being a Perth player. They've already done quarantine, I think, once before this season as well in hotel. So extremely challenging, and something that I think everyone should keep in mind when these guys step out onto the field.
Do you think, sorry, George, can I just quickly ask, do you think they'd have to get some sort of extra support, like counselling or something, just to get them through? Because this has probably thrown a lot of them who, wouldn't have expected to be away from home for this long.
I don't know, every player's different, for maybe some of the young boys who don't have any family in Perth anyway, it's not too bad a thing. For someone who's got 3 kids at school and all the rest, it's very challenging. But the PFA would be there with the players as well in terms of any support required. They'd be ready and willing and able to deploy that. So look, I've got no doubt that the players are getting the support they need. If someone needed extra support, I'm sure everyone would endeavour to provide that as well. But they got a great coaching staff and a fantastic football director in Terry McFlynn as well. So they've actually got some pretty good infrastructure and people around them. But again, I think if I put myself in a player's shoes, I don't really care what you give me. If you can't get me home, I'm not interested. They'd be that upset, some of them certainly. But I'm sure that everyone's doing whatever they can to soften the blow as much as possible.
Bruce, given the number of games that have been postponed, do you think the season should be extended, or should the focus be on packing the games in and finishing the season on schedule in May?
I think they can pack the games in and finish the season on schedule in May. That would be my viewpoint. You see all over the world that there's many teams and many leagues where they play more than a game a week. So to get a couple of games a week for several weeks in a row shouldn't be a problem physically for the players. They should all be up for that. So my view would be to not extend the season and finish it on time. And my understanding on the landscape with borders and COVID and the like is that it will start to normalise. I'd expect by May that there's far less disruption, notwithstanding another variant that might come out of nowhere, but you'd expect there to be far less disruption the further the year goes on.
Bruce, we could talk the whole time only about your player's career already, right? But we just want to focus today what's happening at the moment. I just have one question. Looking back, you finished your career at the age of 30, right? Your last club was
32.
32, sorry, yeah, in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So looking back, do you sometimes think, I would have loved to play a little bit longer? Do you miss that time? So I can imagine that you're very happy in what you're doing, but just sometimes, this feeling into the stadium, the crowds there, kicking the ball.
Yeah. Look, no, I don't miss it. That was my greatest concern when I retired, because I could have kept playing, but I chose not to. And I thought, what if I miss it after 9 months or something? And what if this is just a phase? And you come back and you want to get back to playing, but that never happened. I'm very happy in what I was doing. I've been very lucky to stay very close to the game. I think if I'd retired and have been doing something completely random and not have any affiliation with football, would have been much more difficult. But obviously being football director at Adelaide United for a period, now with Network 10, I'm still very heavily involved in the sport. Maybe that takes that edge off. I'm not quite sure, but I still feel very connected with the game. And there's good young players coming through, so it's their time. I was satisfied with what I achieved in my career. Everyone always wants to do a little bit better or a little bit more, but there's so much more to life as well, and there's a lot that I also want to achieve off the field as well. So I actually don't miss it. I've missed it only once or twice. The FFA Cup final that we Adelaide United won here against Melbourne City, that game, just that one particular game, and the semi-final against Sydney FC last season. They're probably the only 2 games where I went and I was like, I miss playing, because the crowd is, the stadium's full, that everything's on the line. But I know within myself, I didn't have the drive, burning desire to do all the work that allows you to then arrive to those 1 or 2 games a season where they're so critical and important and telling. So it was definitely the right decision for me, even in hindsight.
And it seems like your career your career off the pitch seems very well planned and structured. So you were almost 10 years player and then director of football with when you decided to leave Adelaide United and then became the CEO of Committee of Adelaide. Was that something also well planned in advance, or at least did you know, look, I want to stay with Adelaide as the director just for that limited period of time?
No, I think people call it landing on your feet. So I studied while I played as well. I realized probably at the age of 23, 24, that, there's what else am I interested in? What else am I passionate about? From when I was 7 to when I was 24, it was just football. I was really like this. And I found other interests, other passions. I started studying through university whilst I was playing. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that by doing some study, you'd have some options. And I'd seen a lot of players, because I started relatively young, I've seen a lot of players that fell into problems when they retired, didn't know what to do. A lot of them were forced into retirement, injury, inability to find a new contract. And that was really challenging for them. So I always wanted to be in control of my own destiny. So at about, like I said, 24, I really thought that was critically important to find out what else you're passionate about and what else are you good at. When I initially retired, I worked at Fox Sports for 6 months. And then the opportunity at Adelaide United came out of the blue, really. But grabbed that with both hands, and you always got a bit of imposter syndrome when you try something a little bit new. But you know, I thought, why not give it a crack? I think I can do it.
And you did it.
and I did, and I thought, you know, it's probably a 4 or 5 year project. COVID helped accelerate what we were trying to achieve. So we did it, in my view, in a little bit over 2 years. And then this Committee for Adelaide opportunity came up also out of the blue. Initially, I just went because I'd never been through an interview process, and I thought, you know what, let me go through the interview process just to gain some experience about what it's like, and you know, be interviewed by a panel of people, et cetera, et cetera.
Key selection criteria, Bruce?
What was that?
Answering key selection criteria.
Yeah, you know, so I did that and ended up getting offered the job. And again, I think I'm someone who likes challenges. So people say, oh my God, I can't believe you left Adelaide United. I can't believe you left football, you know? And I'm like, why? Like, you know, I might do something completely different after this as well. So it's all about challenging myself, proving to myself and others that, you know, I'm not just a footballer or a football person, and that, you know, there's broader skills here that I could use to make a positive change or impact in this role, certainly on the state of South Australia. So, you know, it's easy for people to label others or to view others in a certain light, because it's just a simpler way to pass judgment on people. But you know, I'm someone that's very open-minded, very open to what the future holds, and I'm always looking for that next challenge. I like being challenged. This role is extremely challenging. It's an organisation that requires a lot of work, and I'm willing to do it. So what, you know, Adelaide United was the same, and what comes out the other end, you can leave very, very satisfied in that you've made a positive difference. So that's what I'm trying to do here. That's what I did at Adelaide United. That's what I did in my playing days, whether I was playing in Australia or overseas, and I'll continue to do that.
Hopefully,
I'm just
Bruce,
aware of time. Sorry, I'm just aware of time. Do you want to move towards Socceroos, please?
Yeah, Bruce, by the way, I'm glad you're not entirely lost for the sport. It's great to see you on Paramount Plus commentating. Turning our attention to the Socceroos, it's really do or die now against the Vietnamese. We shouldn't have been in this position where our place in the FIFA World Cup could be in jeopardy, but it's all on the line on Thursday.
It is all on the line, but in saying that, it's all in our hands as well. So we're not relying on other results yet. We still play Saudi again. I think we still play Japan again. So there's games that need to be won, and if we win them, then we qualify. Are we taking the harder road? Certainly, but very often we've taken the harder road to qualify. You know, with Ange, we qualified through the playoff, right? So there's definitely challenges, but you know, now we'll see if the team's good enough. I think we'll beat Vietnam certainly on Thursday, but yeah, it's those crunch games. It'll come down to the games against Saudi, the games against Japan. You've really got to bank the 3 points against absolutely everyone else, and those, you know, remaining crunch games are going to be key.
Now, with Graham Arnolds having COVID and not being able to be at the game, just have you ever been as a player in that situation that it was really a key crucial game and the coach for some reason was not available, and what would the impact be on the team?
No, that hasn't happened to me personally, but it's happening a lot nowadays. It's happening all over the world. It's happening in the A-League. But the one thing about the Socceroos and Graham Arnold's team is the unity. It's not overly hierarchical. Everyone is well respected. Whereas I've been in teams where the head coach was above and beyond everyone else. So if the head coach wasn't there and the assistant took it, you'll never replicate the intensity as when the head coach was there. I don't think the Socceroos have that issue. and the game is of such importance that there's no way they can even drop off 1 or 2%. They really have to give it their all, and they will. And I'm very confident that they'll win this game. I don't think having Graham Arnold on the sideline or not is of material impact. So I expect them to carry on business and professionally go about their business and take all 3 points.
From the Socceroos, also quickly to the Matildas, because they are in the spotlight at the moment as well at the Asian Cup. And they had their first match last Friday, had an 18-0 win against Indonesia. And so what are your thoughts about that in terms of, it was just now that they have expanded the numbers of teams for that tournament, and then you see such a result like 18-0. I mean, we're not talking about a qualifier. This is a final tournament, of the best teams of Asia. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, it just shows where the women's game's at in terms of maturity. It needs more time. Obviously, Australia's got a fantastic team. The US have a fantastic team. Sweden has a fantastic team. A lot of these developed countries with a lot of resources at their fingertips are dominating the sport at the moment, but the developing countries will come. The Indonesias, some of these African nations, some of the South American nations, they will rise up as their federations and governments start to invest more money into women's sport and into what is happening in their countries on the women's side of the game. Some are a little bit slower than others, but those sort of score lines isn't what you want to see in a final tournament. But as it matures, as more resources are poured into it, they will continually improve. George, final question.
Bruce, yeah, well, thanks, Santina. Bruce, you must be so proud of the influx of and the development of young African players that are coming through the ranks. Your former club Adelaide are at the forefront of providing opportunities for talented African youth.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that we concentrate on, but we give credit where it's due, and these young players have been making a big difference and do have the potential and talent to be very special players. So one thing about our game is it's so expensive. It's actually a massive barrier for a lot of these, diverse and communities to, culturally and linguistically diverse communities to participate in. They come to this country and it's probably the only sport that they know. At times it might be the only thing that they know. They don't know the language, they don't know the anthem, they don't know the history of the country, etc. But they do know football. So, I think we are losing a number of players to games like AFL, for example. You're seeing a lot of Africans starting to break through into AFL. And there's I wouldn't call it a war, but certainly there's a battle for talent in the sporting side, especially in Australia. You can play so many sports. So it's great to see them coming through. They motivate the next generation as well. People like to see people who look like them doing well, especially in minorities. It's similar in women's sport. Sam Kerr is such an icon because she's a woman and she's one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. And there's a lot of young girls who want to be like her because they see her so prominent now in the sport, whereas historically you wouldn't have seen them. They were always there, but you wouldn't have seen them. So I think it's a good thing. I think there's still the challenges around the cost of participation and all the rest. But the more players that do start to break through, and they're quite prominent in the A-League especially, you start to get a number of them playing for the Socceroos and the like, and it's amplified again. Look at the impact Ava Bill's having and has had. So yeah, I think the more the merrier, and the more competition, the better.
Thank you so much, Bruce. We could probably chat to you for another half an hour, but this is going to cut out. But I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and Sorry about stalking you for the last couple of months.
No worries. It was great to be on, and feel free to have me on it at any time. Santini, you've got my contact details now, so
Yep.
Feel free. And yes, I've got a busy schedule, but no one's ever too busy. There's always time to be made. So
Great.
Feel free to reach out at any time.
If we had more time, I would have liked to ask you, Bruce, about Aurelio Vidmar's comments many years ago about the city of Adelaide. I won't repeat the comments, but in your role as the new person at the city of Adelaide, you'd probably be looking to dispel those kinds of perceptions of Adelaide. Us Melbourneites have always considered ourselves superior to, you know, I mean, we stole your Grand Prix after all.
A lot of, like I said, a lot of work to do in this role.
Thank you so much, Bruce, for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great night and enjoy the game on Thursday too.
See you later. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bye.
All the best. Happy New Year.
Thank you.